Hey out there, it's Sven, and I'm still in the UK, and in today's video I'm going to try to make a sling stick. Shouldn't be too hard, but to make it just a little bit more tricky, I'm only going to be using stone tools. So yeah, wish me luck. Alright, for string I'll be using the well-known stinging nettle. Wonderful plant, of course. A bunch of snails love the UK, but yeah, I'll be using these stinging nettles. They're all about, and they work really well for a very strong bit of string, so I think that'll do just fine. And for the wood, well, I'll see what's available. Alrighty. Got a nice yew tree. Could probably have a good bow in there. Anyway, so from the research I've done, sling sticks were primarily used in the Americas by Native Americans for a game in which the goal was to see who could throw a stone the farthest. So I haven't actually seen all that much about them being used for hunting. I've heard one source say they were, but I think they just sort of guessed. As far as I understand it, they were mainly a game stick. But that does not mean they can't be used for hunting if you get really good with them. In the same way that, you know, shepherd's slings could be used for hunting. In classic British fashion, it is drizzling right now. But my goal right now is to get to the spot where I'm allowed to cut some wood and then find a good branch and then cut it, because I don't currently believe I'm in an area where I'm allowed to cut wood. So I have a little bit of walking to do. But yeah, it effectively works like an atlatl, a stone atlatl. Lengthens your arm so you can increase the time at which you're able to put down energy into the stone that which you are casting. So yeah, time to find a tree. Oh hey, that's a good enough stick for me. Good long, has a thick enough base but also thin enough up here. When you're using stone tools, you really want to find a chunk of wood about the size you want. Of course, I can take out my tool and just go at it then. And I'm gonna have to get around it and stuff, but that's the basic idea. Cut all the way around and then snap. So I'll get on that. Certainly not my cleanest, but it works. And now I'm gonna want a bit about as long as my arm. So give or take about here. Maybe a little more for redundancy. Just mark it about there. And I'll get on cutting this. See if I can do it on camera. That's the other part that's made filming harder. My tripod broke. And then to make matters even worse, I've been struggling with psoriatic arthritis because the shots that I need, Humira, my insurance dropped me and I haven't been able to get them, and in the US they're like $7,000 some a piece, and I need one every 2 weeks and I can't afford that. So, you know, it's been tricky, but I'm finally doing well enough that I can start moving again and filming again, and all that stuff and finishing the videos that I started, but couldn't because I couldn't walk. It would take me 15 minutes to walk all of 10 meters. So almost a meter a minute at the peak of my pain. Psoriatic arthritis is not fun. It is very much not fun. As you can see, it doesn't actually take all that long to do this. But that'll be my stick, about an arm's length. Time to go carve it down. What I'm debating on is it has a bit of a curve. I wonder if that curve should be up like you would have in an atlatl, or if that would direct the stone too far down, or if it should be like this. I think by design I might try and carve a lot of that curve out of it, and then have it this way. Yeah. Ah, man, I love rain. It hasn't actually rained all that much in my current stay in the UK. Granted, I've been all over, from London to West Runton to Bristol, Cardiff, Northern Wales, all that stuff. So I even went to Sweden and Norway, which I didn't get too many videos of, but you know, that was more of a personal trip than one for filming, as is this one, but you know, it's nice to do at least a little filming. It is absolutely beautiful out in the UK though. Reminds me a lot of Washington, like the Pacific Northwest, with the yew trees and the rain, and the way you just have these twisty trees that have vines going up on them. Definitely reminds me of Washington. Perfect. All right, so hopefully the angle isn't too bad. Hopefully you can still hear me, because I don't have a tripod at the moment, and I'm going to be working without it. So I'm at an old flint pile. I have a bunch of flint, and it's time to start removing the bark. Flint is way more effective at carving than a lot of people give it credit for. In this modern age, people forget just how good flint can be as a cutting tool. But as you can see, it works, and it works quickly. Or maybe, as you can see, I hope you can see. The angle isn't maybe the best for you, so I'll turn it up like this. That's been the trickiest thing filming lately. Let me find a better piece of flint. One of the trickiest things filming recently has been not having a tripod. So you can just see how well flint can work to scrape and cut, so long as it is fresh. Its carving ability does die quite quickly after a little bit of time. The fibers of this bark are actually good enough. If I really wanted, I could probably make a string out of this if I get enough of it. Good long strips. But yeah, I'm gonna continue at it and save my dying GoPro's battery. But the goal right now is to carve this section down, leave a fatter section here that I can then dish out a bit, make a little nub for the string, and carve a little handle piece, which is really all you need. and then it'll dry out. When working with flint tools, it's always best that you work green if you can. It's not a requirement. You can work wood. You can work wood dry, but it definitely works way easier green with stone tools. Yeah, so when we get the debarking, and then when it comes to carving the wood down, it's going to be a little harder, but still doable. What I'd like to do is take a good scraper, I don't know if you can see, and then scrape it, but yeah, there it is. Sharp edge. Like that. And this is still capable of cutting the wood itself, of course, but for now I'm just getting the bark off. I only have so many hands. This is probably going to be shaky hand central, but that's the basic idea now of getting some of this weight down. Carve it like that, and then of course I can peel if need be. Slowly just sort of give a thick end and a thin shaft, flatten this out a little, you know, all of that. That's an angle, I guess. Is doing this against my legs smart? I think most people would say no, but I mean, honestly, I have never in my life come close to cutting myself with flint like this on my leg. I think the better question would be, is doing it without gloves on safe? But you know, here I am doing it anyway. Yeah, you can see it carves. It's just your edge runs out pretty quickly and you need to find a new one to get that sharpness back. And yeah, keep going at it like that. This piece seems to be oriented well for a right-handed person. Luckily I'm ambidextrous, so that doesn't bother me any. Carve it down, peel it off, and keep going like that. That's the goal, until I get it the shape I want. That's turning out pretty quick. You can see it doesn't actually take that much time. I've been out here only maybe 5-10 minutes. I'm already getting pretty close to a rough shape. And this tool is definitely dulled on me, but this little broken chunk of flint has a nice bit of cortex for my hand, and then a good blade there. Sometimes they're better oriented for lefties, in which case then this one is not, but maybe here I could do it. In which case I'll just switch to my left hand. This one is not very well oriented for it though. Yeah, so I'll crack on. That is a lefty rock. I sometimes like to just switch hands in general, so I find it evens things out, it balances everything. If I stick to one hand, what happens is I naturally accrue a twist in my work if I'm not careful. But when I can switch between my left and my right hand, it naturally sort of cancels out those my inclination to put a twist into it and remove all the high spots. I end up with a very straight piece. Like, I've been neglecting this side, so now with my left hand I naturally favor it. Like that, and it just takes it out like that. Perfect. Man, I like crafting stuff, it's so fun. So, carving down the stick like this to make it thinner with a thick end on the top isn't just aesthetic. I mean, it does make it look more aesthetic, but it isn't just aesthetic. If you can make the stick lighter, it generally means that you'll be able to move it faster, and thus impart more speed into the stone that you choose to throw. So by getting rid of the side area and thinning, having a handle and then a thin section to a thicker end, I'm cutting down on air resistance while swinging through the air, and I'm also cutting down on weight, which would mean I should be able to swing it just a little bit faster and thus put more energy into the stone. So, oh, and while I'm doing it, also just make it look a bit more refined and cool, a bit more intentional, you know? Rather than just a stick with a hole in it, which will work, don't get me wrong, it will work, but I'm not in dire need to eat at the moment, and if I were, there are a billion blackberries about, so that's not a problem. So I can afford to take the time and energy to make it a bit more aesthetic, just for the fun of it anyway. But now that I've thinned these edges down a decent bit, I could go farther in, and I likely will later, but I'm going to want to do that after I start taking down these edges a little bit more, so that way I have a better ability to gauge how much smaller I should make them, because if you've done anything like this for any amount of time, you'll know the old adage of, or at least I should hope you'd know the old adage. If not, I'll teach you. When it comes to materials like wood, flint, all of that, steel, it's a lot easier to take material off than it is to put it back on. So when in doubt, leave extra, because you can take it off later, but putting it back on is a pain, especially in a primitive context. I've only been filming for such a short period of time and the battery's already at 50%. Well, 60 some percent, I don't remember, but that's what's been making this hard. The battery life is so bad in this old battery. Really need to pick up the pace. Squaring it out a bit. In the end, I'll probably round it again, but for now, good square edges. Yeah, and then I'll get this side too. This singular piece has been so comfortable and has been working so well for so long that I haven't felt the need to switch it to another one yet. But eventually it will probably dull enough that I have to. And with this sort of work, you can't easily just re-nap a new edge unless you do it tranché style, because you really want that smooth, unbroken edge, not the jagged, sawing edge that you usually get when flint napping. So unless you do a tranché flake to get that smooth, sharp cutting flake back, or cutting edge back, you really just use these until they're dull, and then once they're dull, you pick a new one. Try and keep that in shot. But as you can see, I mean, it's still going strong. Still going very strong. Especially now that I'm into the meat of it and the surface isn't so slippery. It's biting in a lot easier, a lot better, and taking off good, sharp flakes. So yeah, squaring it out. So right now I'm just chopping down these edges to a point that will become a nub that the string will attach to, and that string, I'll see if I just braid or twist a regular string to go over the rock, or if I braid in a little pouch to go over the rock. I'm not sure yet, but in any case, the point right now is to make a point. Chop down the edges on both sides. Until I get a little nub that I can then attach the string to. Just cut through all that fiber. I get the good solid wood on all sides, and I do mean all sides. I'll cut it down. Establish a good clean surface. So I just sort of switch up where on the piece I'm working at a time. Sometimes I'll be carving the shaft down like this. Other times I'll move back to the nib here and take it down a little more. It really just depends on if I'm getting sick of the piece part I'm working on, or if I just want things to be a bit more balanced. I feel when I move off in between different sections, I manage to keep my pieces more balanced. Might not be the same for everybody. Some people it might be better if they just work on one thing, I don't know, but for me, I find I get the most balanced and well-made pieces for my skill level when I often switch between which part of the piece I'm working on at a time and go from there. But as you can see, it is coming out, and already swinging it feels a lot better. It feels a lot lighter, but I still have a lot more work to do. All right, now for a part that I'm not actually sure how I'm going to do, and that is I need to make a little divot in here. My best thought is to maybe take a piece of flint that has a little nub like this and just sort of hold it with my foot, find the area I want the divot to be, and just sort of do this until I have about the shape I want. That might be how I have to do it, because I actually don't know how else to do it other than with a fire, and I cannot make a fire in the area I'm in right now. That is not permitted. Doesn't stop most kids, but will stop me. I don't want a record over here, so I guess I'm gonna just try and rub a rock against a stick. Maybe if I flake off a bit here with a better flaking stone than that. Oh, this piece will do. I can give myself a little chisel edge that can be effective in this purpose. There we go. That's a little off center, but that could do maybe, as long as I keep it on track. Yeah, time to carve out that little divot. So one method that's seemingly very effective, I forgot which point it was, this one I think, has just been scraping it like this, and that seems to be removing quite a lot of material in just about the areas I want. So as long as my speed is high and I have a good edge, it seems to actually be scraping out a little divot pretty good here. When I start getting these like grain frivolly bits sticking up, I just come at them from the back with a steeper angle to sort of cut them off, and then go back to scraping until they come up again. And I'll just snip them off like this, and then go back to scraping. So that's been doing actually pretty good. I don't know if you saw any of that. I'll try and do it again just in case. So scrape, and do this. And then once the hairs, the grains stick up too much, just go in with the sharp side, sort of clip them off like that, so I can go back to scraping. And that is making a little divot. Little channel. Just sort of scraping off any little bit that I don't want, like with this little pick part, cutting in against the grain if I can so it doesn't fluff up as much, and then picking out all this junk in the middle. As long as I can cut a groove against the grain, these fluffy bits, once they come out, will terminate at the other side instead of going all the way through and splitting. And then I can just clean this up with fire somewhere else, or I don't know, once it's drier, the flint can make a better seal, sandstone, a stone, something like that. Yeah. So warning, if you don't like blood, I'm going to show some blood. First tiny little cut, that's all. But of course every piece I ever make really gets marked with my blood somehow. So there it is, come into shape. All right, now that I'm at this stage, I can take a long, good sharp flake like this and just start using it kind of like a planer to really smooth up these edges from all the chop marks, which actually works very, very well to get a good edge or a good smooth surface. Sometimes you get in there a bit, just angle. The key to using flint like this is not go straight on like this, but to hold it at a bit of an angle while you pull, and that gives a drawing cut rather than this, which tends to get stuck. So hold it at a bit of an angle as you draw, and that'll pull off very nice flakes of wood, very smooth, and leave you with good edges. Such. Sort of finish it down. I might keep the square edges rather than circling it, rounding it off, just because, I don't know, square edges made with stone tools have a very nice finish to them, like a nice rustic, I don't know if you can see it on the camera all that well, but it has a very nice rustic, actually kind of polished feel to it, which actually means I really don't like to sand the stuff that I do with stone tools, because the edge done with the flint is cool enough. It has a texture to it, but it's very smooth regardless. And yeah, I'm just gonna go over and slice these bits off so everything has a good corner to it. Once you get in, it becomes a lot easier to carve. It can be a bit hard at first over the chop marks, but once you get through those chop marks with those good sort of drawing pull cuts like that, it really works effectively. And then you get that cut finish, which, I mean, for me is enough of a finish to constitute a finish. yes, this would go faster with metal tools, but one, I mean, there's a beauty and a feeling you get when you make things with stone tools that you really don't get when you do metal. It makes you slow down a little bit. They're surprisingly effective, but I don't know, I look at things differently when I make them out of stone. You know, if I make it with a metal tool, it's just, oh, there's another metal tool. Metal tool made, peace of mind. But when I make it with stone, it's like, I don't know, it feels like it has a bit more of a story to it. The flint I'm using here is from the Cretaceous, 65 million years old. And I mean, that's cool in of itself, to be honest. Yeah, I'm gonna have to rework this hole a little bit. One cool thing about flint, when you're working with flint tools, is that if you have a flint pile and you need a job done, there's almost always, guaranteed, basically, a piece of flint in your pile that will be perfectly shaped to exactly the job that you need done. Just because flint breaks in so many wild and wonderfully weird ways. You can find some chunk that is perfectly suited for the job you need. Oh, also you can see while it's green, I have not felt the need to replace this piece, this slicey tool, this knife that I've been using yet. Like, it's still plenty sharp, and I can still take long, proper flakes off, or scrapes off of the wood with it. So that whole like, oh, you need to replace blades often thing, I mean, yeah, sure, more than a knife, like a metal knife, but I mean, reality, anytime, these things go so long, a lot longer than most people would expect. That is, flint tools do. They retain their edge for a very long time, as long as you know how to use them carefully, because they are more brittle, of course. So if you're using them incorrectly, you can snap the edge. But if you're carefully using them and know exactly what you're doing and know how to respect the blade, I mean, this edge is harder than steel. It will last a very, very long time. There we go. Slowly but surely. Still have the edge on that side. So there's the stick. I'm gonna have to, my GoPro's gonna die any second, so the string is gonna have to come another day. But you can see, I'm not really sure what to do with the bottom section. This mini test with no string. Well, it works. will work better with the string so I can time the release better. Yeah, it throws. I'd reckon at very least now, not any worse than my hand does. Very quick update. I cut this bit off. I didn't like the way it looked and it wasn't really adding anything. It was a little too long anyway, so now it's just like this. And so about 3 hours to get to this point with only stone tools. Could I have done faster? Yeah, but oh well. 3 hours and I'm right here. I think it's looking pretty good, all things considered. Pretty happy with that.